Taylor Nowlin. Welcome to the Single Track Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm stoked to be here.
And I should also say congrats on a golden ticket to Western States. That's what brought us here today for this conversation. And you must be thrilled. I know we're only 4 or 5 days removed from the event, but do you have any initial thoughts and feelings?
I am so excited to actually have the golden ticket. I was actually just talking to my dad about it, and he was laughing at me because he was like, "How'd you get it home?" Because I flew home. And let me tell you, it is extremely difficult to get a giant golden ticket through multiple airports. You cannot check them. In one of my flights, I had to put it in the overhead compartment. And then in the other one, I had to basically just beg the flight attendant to stick it in a closet pretty much. So it did make it back to Spokane with me. And I'm really excited to put it in my home gym and use it as inspiration.
I didn't realize it was so big. I've seen the Instagram photos where you're on the podium and you're holding the ticket, but it is that big where it's like a hassle to bring through the airports.
Yeah, no, it's big. And I flew through Las Vegas. So one thing I noticed was people there were more oh yeah, of course she has a golden ticket. Less people ask me questions than the other airport I was in.
And also, I've always wondered this, do you get to keep the ticket or do you have to return it to the event organizers for use in later years?
I mean, I kept it. Yeah, I guess they just print new ones each year. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I was doing research for this episode and maybe I overlooked things, but I haven't seen many episodes of you on the podcast circuit. And I figured we could just cover a little bit of your background and where you train and how you got into the sport before we get into Black Canyon. How does that sound?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm happy to do the deep dive.
How did you get into our sport? What's your intro to ultra running story?
So my intro to ultra running, I mean, I guess I can go back to college. I ran for Oregon State University. I was a steeplechaser there. And when I graduated, I moved almost immediately to Crested Butte, Colorado, where for whatever reason, I thought it was a really good idea to train for road marathons. And I very quickly, once the winter came around, learned that that just doesn't work. You kind of have to adapt to what's there. So instead I got super into skate skiing, kind of learned about backcountry skiing. And then in the summer, when I started trying to run more on roads, I really quickly realized there's an insane trail network out there. And so I started running more on trails and really quickly was this is way more fun than road running. And Stevie Kramer, I would jump into races there and she would just obliterate me. She was so talented and she was a huge inspiration for me to kind of get into that sport and see what I could do. And I just felt it was really fun. And then it kind of spiraled from there. There was no going back.
And one thing I'm curious about, given the fact that you had a background in collegiate running and you're now in the trail running world, are there any what are your thoughts about that? What are the major differences? Were you excited to leave the collegiate road world and to get into trail running? Or was that something you did mention the marathon training? Was that something you were trying to hold on to post college?
I was excited just to do something different. I was one of those people who really stretched out my NCAA eligibility and stayed for 5 years. So by the time I hit the end of that 5 years, I was really ready to go and just do something different and just find something new that sparked joy for me. And when I discovered trails, that was absolutely it.
And then where does this journey to Western States fit into the arc of your career? Has this always been a goal and have you always been working towards these golden ticket events, or were there just other events that were on your agenda in previous years? Because I looked at your ultra sign up and you've been in the sport for 5 or 6 years now. So there's been a lot of time to experiment.
Yeah. I've been in it for a while. This is actually the second golden ticket I have received. I got one at Lake Sonoma.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
A few years back. But I didn't, honestly, I never planned on doing Western States when I first got into the sport, just because 100-milers for me are so intimidating. And I was really worried that my body wouldn't hold up that long. So I would really just try and focus on 50K and under. And I would do 50-milers every once in a while. And I just felt I was getting obliterated by 100Ks. But I've been in it for such a long time, and I turned 30 and was kind of like, I think I'm ready to just like do something different, like mix it up, do something that really scares me, and just like see how I handle it. And I felt like the other aspects of my life kind of started to line up with giving me a little bit more time to like run and train and focus on just that. So I felt like with a little bit more experience under my belt now, I think I have like more of the tools to like not get injured and put in a really solid training block and do it like in a really intelligent way. Because my goal has always been to be like 80 and still running. Like I really, really, really don't want to wreck myself. So I think that's why I always shied away from 100 milers, because I just feel like if you aren't smart about it, you can get injured so easily. And so yeah, I don't know. Truthfully, I was just kind of afraid before, and now I feel like hopefully a little bit more well equipped. We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny that we're having this conversation because you're the second. I just spoke with Anne Marie Madden, and she has almost the identical approach to Western States that you've had. Just this very pragmatic, like I'm going to wait. I'm going to do other events in the sport. I'm going to train for other stuff, and then I'm just going to wait until I feel ready to do Western. And
Yeah,
it's I think it's an important thing because, and I've fallen victim to this. There's just this tremendous pressure. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but there's a pressure to just like go immediately to the 100-mile distance, like UTMB or Western States, like immediately. And
yeah,
I don't know where it's sourced from, but it's kind of refreshing to hear your take on that.
yeah. I think it's just kind of like a long-term attitude. Like I want to be in this sport for a really long time, and especially after seeing so much burnout in collegiate athletics, like I'm take like a very cautious approach.
Yep.
I think for that reason.
And then where are you based? Like where do you do your training, and maybe just talk about that.
Yeah, I am in a very unexpected location. I live in Spokane, Washington, which I feel like there's not very many, it's not Boulder, it's not Flagstaff, which are other places I have lived and trained. But I'm an ICU nurse, and I had a really good job opportunity here. So that's why I'm here. And honestly, I love it. I feel like it's super underrated as like a place to train. We're really close to Canada. Like the trails aren't crowded. Like it kind of has a bad reputation. Like I totally get that. I grew up in Portland. I heard it. But it has my heart. I really enjoy it.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because my partner and I just did a road trip up to Washington this past September, and I drove through Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Spokane, Washington, and then we camped on like the east side of the Cascades for like 5 days, and I was just blown away and honestly shocked that like a place like Spokane isn't more on the map. Like it's not one of those trail running meccas like you said Flagstaff is in Boulder. Are there any other people, like any other notable trail runners in town? Like, is there a community that you train with?
I have a little bit of a community here. I'm like starting to build it. One of my friends, Aaron Good, is like a really good training partner of mine. And I've kind of like built a small community. There's a good amount of like road runners here.
Okay.
And I'm slowly meeting people. But it's definitely a little underrated and not like most people's first choice for a place to like live and train.
Are there any events up there, like ultra events, like 100-milers or 50-milers, anything like that?
Well, I'm Tough is
Okay.
outside McCall, Idaho,
yep.
or I think, yeah, it's in McCall. There's a couple like sky running-esque races at Schweitzer Mountain Resort up in Sandpoint, Idaho.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a bunch of really cool stuff in Canada that I haven't really like looked into yet because the border's been closed for a while. But yeah, I'll have to do a little bit more research, especially with this gap that I now have like until Western. I'm looking to jump into some more like local stuff. I feel like a lot of it has kind of been shut down, and now, races are of course happening again. There's less COVID restrictions. So I'll learn more about them and get back to you on that. But at least a couple.
If you had to play tour guide for a second, like if I'm a trail runner passing through Spokane, where am I running? What's my one run in and around town before going on to the next place?
Yeah, well, your in-town run is absolutely Riverside State Park.
Okay.
It's like a huge state park. It's actually right because a river runs like right through the middle of Spokane, and like on the north side of the city, kind of like northwest side, is a really big state park. It runs along the river. That's lots of like kind of nice windy trails. It's pretty big. That's my go-to because I can get to it it's within like a mile run from my house, and you have really good trails and city living like right next to each other. Okay. And that's like without having to get out of your car and drive anywhere. And I'm all about that. So that's probably my first recommendation.
Okay. What do you do for work?
I'm an ICU nurse. I work in a hospital that's like 5 minutes away from my house, and I love it.
So my perception of nursing is that it's like the work equivalent of ultras. It's incredibly demanding, a lot of time on feet, high pressure. Is that a correct characterization? And I guess I'm curious, like how you balance such an important and such a demanding career with running, given that you run professionally for Adidas. Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's really hard. Honestly, the first year I got into it, I didn't really have much of a balance. Like COVID was just like absolutely rampant. And I had to really scale back on my running just to like be a good nurse. That's really important to me in a career I want to do for a long time. So I wanted to take it seriously. So I've kind of had to like swing back and forth for focusing on one thing more and then other thing. I feel like I finally have like a good middle ground where I can balance both, but it's taken a long time. So to answer your first question, like nursing is absolutely just like ultras. Like you're there for 12 hours. Yeah. You are mentally checked in the whole time. Like you get some good breaks to reset, but like you need to be on your A game like the entire 12 hours. And that's a long time. I think it's really helped me actually when I do run ultras to be like, oh, this is like less than a 12-hour shift. And sometimes I'll only sit down for like 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. And like, I'm pretty active and busy. So I feel like it's a good part of training. But I kind of balance the schedule by like, I just switched to working part-time, which is the best thing in the world. Before I was working full-time and I was alternating between days and nights, which is so hard on like your sleep schedule. I feel like runners are so OCD about sleep. And I just kind of tried to pretend that it didn't affect me, but of course it definitely affected me. So now I just work days and I work like 3 shifts a week and then 2 shifts a week. So I kind of alternate like my really hard training week with the week that I work a little bit less, and then take a slightly easier week on the times when I work a little more. And oftentimes I just wake up at like 4:30, get a little run in, and then like go to work for 12 hours and kind of stack like my hard workouts and my long runs on days that I have off. And every single week looks way different than the last. Like I have all the same components, but I'm constantly like moving around like the long run and the workout and recovery just because my schedule is not regular ever. So it's kind of strange. And I feel like there's an art form for it that I'm slowly learning, but be adaptable.
Well, we had another golden ticket winner on the show Tuesday, Jeff Colt, and he was trying to sell me on the benefits of all day standing. He's like, Finn, I only do 40 to 50 miles a week of training because I actually try to stand for 10 to 12 hours a day. And you'd be surprised at how far that goes when it comes to being successful at ultras. And he's like, I never really felt bad during Black Canyon because this amount of time on feet was like my normal.
Yeah.
If you had a similar experience.
I think there's something to that. I don't think it's like a magic cure all. Like I was still really tired during Black Canyons, you know, despite spending many hours on my feet. But yeah, I don't know. I think it definitely helps kind of train your body to have a little bit better like endurance for sure. And especially like mentally, I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, I do a lot of hard things at work, like emotionally difficult stuff. Just like I can be really tired and still have to like, you know, put my feelings aside and be present for a patient or something. And I think it's taught me more than anything, a lot of like really good mental tactics to just be like tougher as an athlete.
Yeah. Well, let's get into Black Canyon. I'm curious, and I apologize for overlooking the Lake Sonoma ticket because I do remember now you got that and you just decided not to go to Western, but I'm curious. Why did you choose Black Canyon? Like there's a ton of other races. There's obviously Canyons 100K, there's Bandera.
Yeah.
What appealed about Black Canyon?
First of all, I've never run the Black Canyons Trail, despite like living in Flagstaff, I
Yeah.
never ran it. I never saw it. It was always kind of a bucket list thing. I
Okay.
really like our Viper races. So I knew it was going to be like a good event. So it was already like a good choice from that standpoint. Canyons, I ran last year and I did it like undertrained
Okay.
and it was so hard. And you know, when you just kind of get like a little bit wrecked in a race and then it's hard to go back to it because you're just like, oh man, that was so brutal that one year. So I was like mentally prepared, like if I didn't get a golden ticket at Black Canyons to like continue it and like try again at Canyons, but I didn't want to because I had that like past experience and it was humbling. And then I actually did Bandera. I showed up, I was super fit and really ready to go. But the day before, I got like a super bad stomach bug and was like throwing up all day long the day before the race. And so I still started because in my mind, I was like, maybe it's just like a 24-hour thing and it'll magically go away and I'll be totally fine, which was absolutely me lying to myself. And I made it like 15 miles of dry heaving and was like, yeah, okay, I think I'm good. So yeah, I don't know. I guess all those things together were what brought me to Black Canyons.
And then I should have asked this earlier, but is Spokane a place where you can train through the winter and you can get the specificity you need for races like Black Canyon?
Turns out no. Most of the trails were like packed snow. I've really only been running on like ice and packed snow and the Centennial bike path. So just like paved bike path. And that's kind of where I've done all my workouts, but it's quite cold here. I mean, I think all my training was under like 30 degrees. Like it hasn't gotten above freezing until like the last couple of weeks. So I wasn't exactly heat adapted. I did some treadmill runs, so like I guess that kind of counts.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It was okay. I mean, it's possible, but it's not exactly like specific training.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can make it work, but maybe not the best thing.
Well, normally I pride myself on good research, but I totally overlooked your Bandera and your Canyons and your Sonoma. So it turns out you're actually a veteran of these golden ticket races. And I'm curious, given that you have all this experience, were you going into Black Canyon with a similar race strategy or were you looking to try something new? I'm curious about that.
That's a good question. I'm not really huge on strategy a lot of the time. Sometimes I'm like, I feel like if I'm fit, it'll just work out. And I don't always run with a ton of strategy, to be honest. I usually go out pretty conservative. I hate the feeling of like just hammering from the get-go and then dying later and having to hold on. Like I used to do that in college races. And then when I got in the trails, I was like, we're going to be smarter, like run negative splits or at least try. So I mean, my goal was just to kind of like go out easy. I know it's a fast start, but just like really run within my means and then kind of start racing at like the 40K mark when like you start to have some more climbing and people start to kind of feel the burn a little bit more. Or even past that, like 50K, 60K when it starts to like really heat up. So when I was out there, I was super excited to find like a whole pack of ladies with kind of like a very similar mentality. Like I was running with Claire and Devin, and we were all like, let's form an alliance and just like start really slow and just chill. Like no one get too excited. We're going to just stay relaxed. And it was really fun. Like the first 20 miles, we were just like shooting the shit and talking. And I didn't really feel like racing. It just felt like a fun run that I was on with like some old friends that I haven't chatted with in a while. And it got harder after that, but that was kind of my strategy. It was like, stay within my means, stay calm, like, and then, you know, as the day progresses, like check in with myself and my crew and like try and like keep pushing. And so I just tried to like keep contact with that pack as long as I could. And then after that, it's just kind of a race of attrition.
You reminded me, and this is, I think, what makes our sport so funky is that alliances and in race support and like cheer, you know, partnering with your competitors actually makes sense and can take you far.
Yeah. Like if you have like cool people who are willing, you know, to work with you and check you a little bit. Like I'm trying to remember, I think it was like the third aid station, but I came out of it and I just had that like runner's high when you come out of an aid station and you're like, I can fly the rest of this race. I feel so good right now. And I remember I like kind of ran right past Devin, and she like, I don't remember exactly what she said to me, but she was basically like, that's Addie Bracy right up there. Like, we're doing great. Like, we can see her. You don't have to like go run and catch anybody. It's super early on. And I remember being like, thank you for saying that, because like I don't need to, go all out right now. So yeah, we were joking the whole time. Like, it kind of feels like Survivor, where people like make alliances and like you just try and last till the end together.
Oh, that's so true. Well, and actually it makes me ask this question. So this is a listener question, but I'm equally as curious. Given that you got the third golden ticket and you were on the edge there the whole day, what did it feel like mentally to be in that position? Like, were you still trying to just run your own race the whole time? Were you cognizant of that and you felt the pressure? I'm curious, like, what mental strategies you deployed there to make it all work in the end.
I was just kind of trying to do the best that I could do the whole day. Like, I feel like I hit a certain point in that race where I was like, this is just like all I've got. And if someone passes me, then they're just more fit than I am. And if I pass someone, then that's awesome. But right now I am giving like 110% of like the effort that I have within me. So like, what happens kind of. I feel like that was my mentality for a lot of it. Pretty early on in the race, Claire had mentioned that she wasn't actually racing for a golden ticket. And so I actually knew that the whole time, but I didn't necessarily always know like what position I was in relative to other people. Because I feel like if I was in this pack and then there were like a few people that got away from us, but I didn't know exactly how many there were in front. And I wasn't always going through aid stations and hearing like, oh, you're in 5th or you're in 6th. So I wasn't really sure. But I remember like when I picked up Stephen Kirsch, my pacer, he had mentioned like, oh, you're in 4th right now. And I had thought I was in 3rd going into that aid station. And I was like, oh no, and then I was like, oh wait, Claire said she might not take the ticket. So, and then like the wheels were turning, and that was the first time that I got really nervous about it. Cause I thought I was in a comfortable 3rd. And then I realized I was in 4th. And then I was like, maybe I can catch the person in front of me, but I wasn't sure how far she was. And yeah, I don't know. It was I was just trying to hang on.
Yeah. Well, even when you're in contention, do you ever deal with the issue of like just being satisfied with where you are and maybe just like losing the motivation to do the work you need to close it out strong and to get that last ticket? Like, was that ever an issue at Black Canyon, or has it been an issue at previous races?
I think so. I think that in general, I'm like a friendlier competitor maybe than I should be. I feel like when I'm running with people or alongside people and they pass me or vice versa, like maybe I need to be more fierce, because oftentimes when someone passes me and I felt like I was running fast and then they run past and I'm like, dang, she just looks good right now. Like, go friend, go. And that's not like as competitive as of a mindset as I think sometimes would be like beneficial to be more of a racer. So that's actually something I'm working on, is being a little more like fierce, but it's hard because I mean, there's just so much talent in this sport, and it's so easy to see what other people are doing and believe in them just as much as you believe in yourself. So yeah, for me at least, it's something I'm working on.
I know we talk a lot about lessons learned following poor performances or underperformances, but in the case of Black Canyon, obviously it was a great performance. Are there any lessons you're taking away from it? Like, oh, I'm glad I had this experience or that experience, and I'm going to apply that towards Western states or something else in this upcoming training block?
I learned a lot. Yeah, I think one of the first takeaway points that I got was just running in heat and how you have to be really cognizant of like staying like keeping your body wet and not getting overheated. Like my crew stepped in at the very last minute to help out as some of my Adidas teammates. And if it weren't for them, I don't think I could have done what I did that day, because they did a bunch of things that I never asked them to do as crew. Like Steven brought these bandanas that like he would like tie around my neck that was like full of ice in the back. And it was like the most luxurious thing that could have possibly happened to me while running. And I probably said thank you like so many times, but that's like, in my opinion now, absolutely essential for like hot weather running. So like ice in all places. Like I had some in my sports bra, I had it on my back, and I was like loving life. So that was a big lesson. Like, don't ignore the heat and think it's not a problem, because going into Black Canyons, I didn't think about it. I've been running in freezing temps for as long as I can, many months. So I was like, oh, it'll feel like I'm on tropical vacation. I didn't really think like, oh yeah, like it gets hot, you should probably, prepare for that. So that was a big takeaway. I think the other thing was I really felt like when I was racing, I was like putting everything I had out there in terms of fitness. Like I feel like that was a really good reflection of like where my fitness was at, and to finish that race and be like, whew, okay, I barely got that golden ticket. Like I don't feel that great right now. I kind of walked away being like, I need to train a lot harder if I'm going to expect to finish 100 miles, like be competitive at 100 miles. So I think it was good. It was humbling in a lot of ways, and I think has made me kind of come back to my like training plans and go, okay, how do we really like beef this up? How do I make myself as strong and as fast as I can possibly be, and like really boost my endurance? So I think my next training block is going to have a few more miles and more strength work, and just a lot of stuff to make sure I'm like really bulletproof going into States.
I was just going to ask, given that Western States is like the marquee event in the US, it's on par with like UTMB over in Europe. Do you think any differently about this next training block, or do you consider it with the same focus you'd apply to any race? Like, are you psyching yourself out? Or are you like, you know what, I'm going to stick to my guns?
Yeah. I'm not psyched out. I think I'm a good amount of like excited and intimidated, if that makes sense. Like I think Black Canyons was like humbling in a lot of ways for me to like really realize like, okay, I have to really take everything that I've learned from all the running that I've done and apply like the best version of myself to this training block and like really give it my all. And I feel really motivated and excited to do that. And especially because it's something that is still outside my comfort zone. I think that new component of like, this isn't just like a 50K. I know I've done a 50K. I can do that. This is bigger and it's on a big stage. And I feel like that has really like reinvigorated my love for this sport and my excitement to really train like as hard as I can for it.
What are some things that you think you talked about upping the mileage, for example? Is there anything else that you see yourself doing differently in preparation for States? Like, are you somebody that would go and like move down to Sacramento or Auburn and train on the course for like 6 weeks ahead?
That strategy, I feel like doesn't really work well for me. I am very much a creature of habit. And so my plan is like to hunker down in my home base and just do what I normally do, but like do more of it and do better, like sleep more, like eat a little better, add a few more miles, like not change anything drastically, just like take what I do and make it higher quality and like add a little more. That being said, my sister lives in Sacramento, so I'll probably go down there and like preview the course. I have a couple teammates, like Emily Hoggett is going to be down there also training for States. So, I haven't asked her this yet, but maybe crash with her for a little bit and, preview the course. So I'll go down there, but I won't like go live down there. Also, because like I have a job, and so I can't like I can't just leave for 6 weeks and then come back. So I'll do what I can.
So when I was over in Chamonix this past August for the UTMB week, and one of the things that stuck out to me was how cool of a setup Adidas had, like that team house. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'm wondering, do they do something similar for Western States? Like, will you have that benefit on race week?
Yeah. We'll have all the benefits of like having an incredible team, like all come together with a little bit of help with like planning meals and like getting massages and like all the things that you can think of to like really have a good performance. They really help us with like Adidas. I didn't even know that like a sponsor could be that supportive, and until I like got on this team. And it's been like super cool. I mean, like I love them like I love my family, you know. We've become like so close because we spend so much time together and we do all these really cool things, and they've awarded us some really incredible opportunities to just like be ourselves and go run the races that we want to do and do the things that inspire us, and just to kind of give us like a, you know, resources to like make all that happen. And then like, you know, support when you want to try something new. So that's been really special.
Yeah, as a fan of the sport, and I'm not the athlete you are, I'm not sponsored, but just as a fan of the sport, for a while it was like Hoka, Solomon, and Ultra, and they still have their place. They're still big, but it's been interesting to see brands like Adidas and Brooks and Saucony become so much more relevant, and to have really elite athletes like yourself representing them, and just really cool. Like I said, Adidas stuck out to me the most UTMB week, and so that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing team to be a part of. One of the things I love is like they support like the running community too. It's not just about like, oh, we have these star athletes and they're amazing. It's like, how can we make this whole sport better? You know, what can we give to the people who love this like we do? And I really respect that approach.
Well, that's the perfect place to switch gears. I'm curious, and this is another listener question. I think it's a good place to add it in. Do you have any advice for especially younger female runners that are entering into the sport, especially those that want to take the sponsorship pro route that you took?
Yeah. Oh man, I think having like good mentors and people to talk to about like how to move up is super helpful. Like I had a lot of people kind of give me advice and help me learn to sort of stick up for myself and really know what I was worth. And that was super helpful. It's really hard to negotiate contracts if you've like never done that before. And then training, of course, is like a whole nother beast. Like, how hard do you go? I mean, I knew what to do in college. I'd been trained my whole life from like collegiate coaches, and like I'd always had coaches kind of dictating my training plans, and I was really good about like, okay, get this, do this, like just execute. And then all of a sudden I was kind of off on my own designing new things. So again, I think like having some like good leadership and guidance is like huge. Like finding someone who's like maybe a little bit more seasoned in the sport and can like give you good advice is huge. I think one big lesson for me, it was like patience, because I think that especially like for female trail runners, it's like you probably won't peak until maybe your mid 30s, and that's like totally okay. And I feel like one trend that I've seen in the sport lately is there's so many like insanely talented collegiate runners getting into it in a way that I feel like there wasn't like when I had just graduated. And I think it's like a really important lesson to just like bide your time, like get into it, have fun, don't take it too seriously, and like realize that like you could be in this for a long time. Like have like that long-term mentality of like I don't know, not like expecting yourself to be victorious at like the first race that you do immediately, because I fell victim to that. I was like, I'm a good collegiate runner, like I can be great in all the trail races, and instantly I was so humbled because it's a whole different ball game. Like you have to learn to eat, you have to learn to like last for these really long distances. Like mentally it's so different, and there's so many lessons to be learned. And I think if I would have been like easier on myself in the beginning, I probably would have been like a little bit happier with the results that I had.
Well,
it's hard.
Yeah. Well, that makes me wonder. So you've been in the sport for about 6 years, and I'm curious, and we can maybe take this from a sponsorship angle, but really any angle that you see fit. What's the biggest difference you notice about the sport from when you first entered in 2015, 2016 versus now 2022? Yeah.
Oh, man. This might be like partially my own awareness of how big this sport is, but I feel like it's just growing. Like when I initially got into ultra running, it felt so niche and like such a random small sport that only a few people did here and there. And like the longer I've been in it, I feel like it's really becoming like so much more popular. Like you go into running stores and like there's way more running shoes, and like you travel abroad and do a race like UTMB. And I mean, for me, initially just doing like small races in Colorado, that like blew my mind. I was like, so many people actually care. This is crazy. And so I feel like it's growing. It's growing really fast, and it's exciting to be a part of and like have just more eyes on it. And yeah,
Are
that
there
seems like a
more?
trend.
Yeah. Are there more opportunities as a sponsored athlete? Like, were the conversations when you were first talking with brands, are they different now than they were back then because the sport's bigger?
I feel like that's the case, but it might just be, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I assume so. I feel like more brands are seeing that like there's a lot of people who love trail running and it's super cool, and that's a, you know, a growing market.
Yeah.
So I could understand why that'd be true. I mean, I think so. Yeah, it seems like it.
Would you ever do this full time if you had the opportunity? Like if Adidas came to you and said, "Hey, whatever you're making as a nurse, we'll cover that and more, and we just want you training and living and breathing running all day." Would that be something that's appealing to you?
No, I don't think I could. I do really well with um just kind of having like multiple things going on in my life. I
Mm,
really enjoy having the balance of, you know, like maybe I have a bad day at work and then I can go out on a great run and like, you know, sort of forget about that. And
yeah.
then, you know, vice versa. I can have a really bad race and then a couple of days later I can go to work and just like absolutely crush it as a nurse. And it helps kind of keep me at like more of an emotional equilibrium, I guess, because
Mm,
all my eggs aren't like in one basket. And
mm,
also, I mean, I struggled with this for a while of feeling like all the time that I was putting into running felt a little bit selfish. Like,
yeah.
you know, I'm trying to be a good, you know, leader and role model and like promote like a healthy lifestyle and like all these things that, you know, could be like you're kind of trying to better the community around you. But it still felt kind of selfish to me. And so I feel like nursing kind of is my way of like giving back to the community that I live in and like being able to contribute something like very tangible and very direct and obvious. And that makes me like feel really good. Not saying that like running full time is a selfish thing at all, but for me, I think it just worked better to like have have a couple different things going. And you know, yeah, I just like it. Nursing's also fun.
That's a great take. So I ask this question often to pro athletes like yourself, and I used to be very biased in the opposite direction. I thought that for whatever reason, it made the most sense for athletes to go all in, but answers like
Yeah.
those always slowly but surely kind of tilt me at least towards the middle. So
Yeah.
interesting.
I I think it makes me better because I'm like I'm less in my head. Like when I show up to train, I'm like, okay, this is what I got to do. And okay, I know I have this thing where if I have too much free time, I don't get anything done. I
Mm.
like waste it somehow. But if I have less free
You need
time,
constraints. Yeah.
yeah, I guess so. If I have less free time, I like get organized and like I don't know. It's just like how my brain works, I guess. So juggling the two works well. That being said, being part time and juggling less of nursing has been hugely beneficial.
I can attest to that. I had guests coming to the house on Monday morning, and at 11 p.m. at night, I was painting our bathroom because it needed to get done.
Yeah,
So
see, it's like the yin and the yang. You need the both.
if we're being critical just for a second, what would you like to see changed in the sport?
Ooh. Hmm. I think, I mean, it'd be really cool if trail running was like in the Olympics.
Amen.
So there's that. I I think, I mean, I really love like the small races that like pop up across the like some of the small events that I've done have been like some of my favorite events. So like not becoming like too big and too corporate.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like UTMB has kind of taken like an interesting direction where it just feels like it's becoming like a big giant. And I don't know, I kind of want to keep the small ultra running community still feeling like the small ultra running community, if that makes any sense.
That makes total sense. Yeah, it's interesting that if I make a decision, for example, to just stay on my local circuit and do races like the Bear 100 or the Wasatch 100 or Squaw Peak 50, I am out of the, I have no opportunity to do UTMB one day because I haven't been doing their circuit of races for however many years and however many stones I need to collect. So
yeah,
it's interesting how you get locked out.
yeah. And I don't love that. I want to be able to do like cool stuff that's local to me and not have to like focus all my efforts on traveling to like specific races just to make it to like this one big event. Like I want to give back to like smaller communities that are hosting things with like local running clubs and stuff. And I mean, you can only run so many ultras in a year. So
right.
I feel like it's a really hard position to be in, kind of.
Yeah. Putting last question on this front, putting your prediction hat on for a second. If you had to guess, what do you think will be the most different about our sport 10 years from now?
Ooh.
And it could be any area of the sport too.
Oh, gosh,
racing,
this is such a hard question. I mean, I could do the easy answer and just be like, I think we'll be in the Olympics, which I think would be really cool.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
I think like our community will just like continue to, my hope is we'll just continue to like grow and be more like inclusive of everyone and like be more diverse and be known for celebrating like body positivity. Because like one thing that I really love about trail running, and I feel like this has become a more popular topic lately, is like people can look so many different ways and still absolutely crush on the trails. And I felt like when I was kind of in the collegiate like track world, I felt like very specific body types were good at like long, fast 5Ks. And it was just like one type of person. And I feel like in trails, I don't know, it just seems like it's a little bit more welcoming. And so I would just hope that that grows.
I'm really glad you said that because this is not my own thought, but it is new to me, and I'm starting to wrap my head around it. The idea that if we want to grow the sport, we should be more encouraging to people that don't have access to trails, and maybe they need to run roads 5 or 6 days a week, and they have that one day where they can do the 2-hour drive and escape to the mountains. Because I think there's a lot of people that have a perception problem, which is like, unless you're running the most aesthetic verti mountain long runs, you're not a trail runner. And maybe we need to dispel that notion.
That's so accurate. I mean, I am absolutely guilty of this. Like I do the vast majority of my running on non-scenic trails, like city bike paths, like running under highway underpasses. Like it's what's local to me. That's what's easy, you know, like, but the only things that go on my Instagram, you know, admittedly are like the cooler, the prettier runs, the stuff that I can realistically only do, I don't know, like once every couple weeks. In the summer, it's a little easier, but you know, in the winter, like I drive to most of my big ski missions. Like, I think that's so true. Like maybe celebrating more of like, I don't know, more of the hustle and like the hard work that goes into like those beautiful scenic runs that you get to do every once in a while.
It's in, again, I have to emphasize that I can't take credit for that. That's not I just heard it like 2 hours ago and I'm like, that makes a ton of sense. But like it could be connected to so many issues around like increasing participation in the sport and diversity, because there's really only like 6 major trail towns in the US. And we're going to limit ourselves if we don't expand the definition and allow places like, I don't know, Austin, Texas to also be trail running centers. So
that's so true.
Couple philosophical questions here, because I like to go deep
sometimes.
Oh gosh.
I'll do what I can.
The first one is there anything you used to believe strongly about our sport, whether it's from a racing standpoint or a training standpoint, whatever, that you've changed your mind about recently or in the last couple of years, and why?
Ooh. I used to think I used to think that going out on big long runs could like solve all like mental problems, like any stress that I was going through, any like life transitions, like big difficult things. I would just go out on runs and like feel like, oh yeah, I can work out all these things that are bothering me in my head while I'm running. Like running is therapy. And running is therapy, but that's not the same as like actual therapy. So I think that's something that I've like kind of changed my perception on, is like running is very therapeutic and that's a wonderful thing, but it's not the same as like talking to someone about what you're going through. Like running is a really beautiful like escape mechanism and does help us like cope with stress and problems and stuff. But I think that there's other ways to do that too, you know, like sharing with your friends and family, like talking to people, like seeking professional help if that's what you want. And that's something that has definitely changed, like since I kind of started thinking about trail running, like my relationship to the sport.
I would second that very strongly. I used to think that running could solve all my problems, or if I just read enough books in a certain area, it would solve things. But nothing replaces human connection and either talking with people that care about you or people that have trained their whole lives to empathize. So
yeah,
amen.
Absolutely.
What's a recent book, movie, or podcast you've consumed that has changed the way you think or see the world, and why?
Okay, so my most recent like guilty pleasure show that I just discovered. I don't know that this has like truly changed the way I see the world, so take it with a grain of salt, but it is the most recent thing I've been watching. But I just discovered Cheer on Netflix, and have never been a cheerleader. I like know nothing about cheer, but it is so impressive. And I feel like this is true for me for like all sports, but it's so cool watching other people be really incredible at the sport they practice. And like, I really respect like hard work and dedication to something, like no matter what you're putting that into. Yes. And I feel like that's kind of what's shown in that show. And it's been really cool just to like see how they train and like the emotion that goes into it. And like, I don't know, it's been like pretty motivating for me actually to just like take what I do, but do it better. Cause like, I guess in collegiate cheer, like there's just like a few competitions that really make a big difference in like you only have a couple chances to like be great basically. And I feel like it made me kind of think more of ultra running and be like, wow, it's really amazing that like you can have a terrible race and just do another race. Like there's always more races, or a lot of the time, you know, hopefully you're not injured and aren't able to do stuff anymore, but it makes me grateful to have like a lot of different opportunities to really like, you know, prove myself, I guess, and motivated me to be a little tougher too, because some of those girls will like break bones and like have like serious injuries and fly up in the air and then get dropped on their head and they'd be like, I'm gotta go back out. And I watched it like after Black Canyons and was like, maybe I think I just need to be tougher.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm so glad you mentioned that you're inspired by anyone that specializes and is dedicated to their craft, because, and I'm not a big TV watcher. I'm always late to the game on everything, but I'll share a funny story. I just recently watched this show on Netflix called Queen's Gambit. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I saw that. Okay, so, I watched it.
Well, anyways, because I am so out of touch with like pop culture, I thought I was the first person to see that show. And I just was like shouting it from the mountaintops for like 5 days. Like, you got to watch Queen's Gambit. You got to go buy a set.
Yeah.
And apparently people watched it 2 years ago, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, that's a great show because she's so, her dedication to chess and like how she like, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one other one that was kind of along these same lines, but I also watched, it's called We Are the Champions on Netflix. It's like a mini like docu-series. And they just follow like people doing one specific thing and doing it great.
Yeah.
And they follow like people who like eat professional like or people who eat like really hot chilies and go in competitions and do that. And the first episode is all about cheese rolling. It's like this little town in the UK, and they kind of talk about it and how every year they have these competitions that started like in like the 1800s, like it's been going on for a really long time. And they like roll a big thing of cheese down a hill and everyone like chases after it. And it's super competitive. And at the end, you like win the cheese and people like break bones. There's like an ambulance at the bottom of this like really steep, I don't know, it's maybe like 200 yards or something hill. And people like throw themselves down the hill after the cheese and like break stuff. But like whoever gets to the bottom like wins the cheese and gets all the glory. And I don't know.
That's awesome.
Kind of along the same lines. Like you have to respect people just going full send down a really steep hill after cheese. Like I want to treat an ultra like they treat that race.
that might be the quote for the episode right there. Cool.
Perfect.
All right. So the last question I have for you is, if you could put a message on a billboard for all to see, what would it say and why?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is a hard one. Probably like treat nurses better. I mean, COVID has been hard on all of us. And I think I know that healthcare workers have really been through the ringer and have sacrificed a lot to still be showing up every day and doing their jobs. And you know, it's not easy and y'all don't always get thanked for it. And I think that like my fellow coworkers deserve some more like recognition for all the lives that they've saved and the time they've put in and the sacrifices they've made. So yeah, something along those lines. Maybe I'd come up with like a more eloquent way to say it.
Hey, I've so enjoyed this conversation. I always learn a lot in each episode, but the density of knowledge I picked up here was awesome. For folks that want to follow your journey to Western States, they want to follow you on social, how do they do so?
I'm on Instagram. My handle is at _Tame _ So that's probably the best way. I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have a blog. And I very rarely log into Facebook because I found it's not the best for my mental health. But Instagram, I do check.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again. We were stoked to have you on. Great to meet you. And thank you for the time.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.